Yeah, we're on.
Man,
Welcome to the show, Koji Abe. Actually, you know what's so funny? I've never actually asked you how to correctly pronounce your last name. Is that just how it is, Abe?
no, it's actually Abe.
Oh, see.
Yeah,
So welcome to the show, Koji Abe.
thank you very much.
Wow.
Brad
So
Bodnarchuk.
yeah, so you do mine really well. Do a lot of people get that last name wrong?
You mean pronouncing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from the States, so people think like Honest Abe. So
Ooh.
straight up, you know.
Abe, and Abe is from where? And to introduce the listeners to where you're from. I mean, obviously you said the U.S., but like where your ancestors are from, where Abe comes from.
So I'm born and raised San Francisco Bay Area.
Shout out, Cali.
The Bay Area. But my parents are originally from Japan. My dad's from Nagoya, and my mom's from Shizuoka. And yeah, you know. So
How did they end up in San Fran?
Um, so my dad was traveling around Europe right around when he finished college, and then he met. This is what he tells me, but he was in Greece, met a beautiful American girl. You know, they fell in love, and she said, "Hey, come to California." And then he was like, "All right." And then they didn't end up together, but he just stayed in California.
And your mom had already been there?
My mom she actually came to Vancouver first.
Oh, right. We talked about
Yeah,
this.
she went with a couple friends and ended up staying a year. She lived in Kits, and she was like doing the au pair visa thing.
Okay.
So she was like kind of babysitting
Yeah.
for like a year. And then she went back to Japan and realized like, oh, I don't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep,
Exploring.
And she ended up going to San Francisco with a couple friends, and then was like, there's no flying cockroaches here. I'm just going to stay here. And if you ask my mom to this day, she claims that she chose San Francisco because there's no bugs like in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have never been, obviously, like we discussed, I haven't been to Japan. Japan's like really rampant with.
Yeah, it's kind of like humid and super hot in the summer.
So it's perfect environment.
It's perfect environment for flying cockroaches and terrorizing my mother.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What do they do there to combat that?
Nothing.
They can't do any kind of like sonar stuff or anything like sound waves to like push them out?
I don't know. Actually, when I lived in Japan, I was up north in Hokkaido, and it's pretty cold there, colder climate. Doesn't get too humid. I didn't see a single cockroach.
So she's telling stories.
She's telling stories, so I'm not quite sure what she's talking about.
So let's fill the listeners in, because I think it's pretty unique to have you and I sitting here today. We're literally days away from you leaving Vancouver. You've been here for a short while.
Yeah, like almost 7 months.
Right.
Or 7 months tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So,
happy anniversary, bro.
thank you, bro.
So you came to Vancouver, and your story of how you came to be here is kind of interesting, and it involves this podcast in a roundabout way, which I think is also kind of serendipitous that you're now guesting on the podcast. I think how cool is it that not only that podcasts like this and many others that can be accessed all over the world by anybody. So what I'm thinking with this podcast is like, who's going to be the version of Koji Abe for this podcast? Do you know what I mean? Where you were for the Belgium podcast, but I'll let you tell the story, kind of where you were when you heard the podcast and how that kind of influenced your decision to call Vancouver home for a short time.
Yeah, so I was working in Hokkaido. I'd recently switched from front of house to back of house. I wanted to learn how to cook. I had no cooking experience, so straight up went to like a Michelin-starred restaurant, and I wanted to just go to a hard kitchen and make sure I wanted to do this before I committed to. And I did, and I agreed to do like a 2-year apprenticeship, basically. And I went in to cook, but I kind of got pushed out into doing front of house because my ability to speak English. So I wasn't really cooking too much. I was kind of unhappy with the situation. So started kind of looking I decided to stick with it 1 year and then see how I feel. And if I'm not into it, then I can leave. So I was searching around, and Chef Robert Belsham was like on my list of chefs that I would like to work with, just because of his butchery and just his pedigree from where he worked throughout his career. And I just really loved his like farm to table philosophy. And I had seen Campagnolo featured on like a Japanese television show that I watched, and I was like, wow, this place is awesome. Like, so many concepts in one group under one roof. And I felt like as a cook that's just starting out would be like a great place to like branch out and learn all these different skills. But I was in Japan and camp's in Vancouver, so I really wanted to make sure it was like the right place to go. Mm-hmm. So I was searching on YouTube, Google, like Chef Robert Belsham interviews. Not much came up, but then your podcast came up, so I gave it a good listen, and then I was like, I'm coming, man. I'm coming. So
that was it, literally.
Yeah. Like, after listening to the interview, I was like, yeah.
Was there something that he said that you can look back on as like a tipping point for you in making that decision, or was it just like holistically the whole thing? It just gave you a better idea of kind of like who he is and how he thinks and how he ideally wants to run his business, or was there one thing where you're like, it clicked, you're like, I'm going?
I think it was just to get, I kind of got to know him through the interview was one. Mm-hmm. But I think what resonated with me was when he was saying how the older generation chefs have to teach the newer generation, and how they were brought up in not the best circumstances, right, or they went through some shit to get to where they are. And I kind of related with that because I went to Japan hoping to learn, and I did learn a lot, but it wasn't like they were showing me like, this is how you do this. It was more like, just do it and figure it out, and if you do it wrong, we're gonna yell at you, but we won't tell you what's wrong, So yeah, Chef RB was like, that's how I like to run my kitchen, and that's how we gotta train the new generation. So I really was like, I want to work here.
And when you finally made the decision to leave Japan and come to Vancouver and call it home, was there any apprehension? Was it all excitement? I mean, it's a big thing for anyone to do, to change cities, to go to a new place that you've never been. Obviously, your mother had been here before, so she kind of gave you a bit of the lay of the land. But being a city that you had been to before, but you spent very little time here at a younger age, was there any kind of hesitation at all and nerves, or what were the emotions you felt when you decided, yes, I'm going to go, and this is going to be my new home for X number of months or years?
Yeah, I wasn't so nervous about moving to Vancouver. I've had a lot of experience abroad, studying abroad during college, and so I wasn't very nervous about that. I was more stressed out about getting the logistics of like getting the visa, and then the camp had agreed to hire me if I could get there by a certain time, and the visa situation took a lot more time than I expected. So I wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to work there.
Right.
And then I would be leaving my workplace in Hokkaido, and then if I didn't get this visa, I would be kind of like, oh, what do I do now? So, right. But I was full in, and I was like, it felt like a good time to go. So for me, it wasn't too nerve-wracking other than the visa just waiting for that visa.
How much of that, when you say it felt like a good time to go, how much of your life do you feel, and we can say your age if you want to, but you're a pretty young guy, but you have a very interesting mindset as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, grab some water. When you say it felt like the right time to go, I'm a big believer, and we've spent a lot of time together, I'm a big believer in just like trusting your gut and listening to intuition. A lot of the clients that I work with, I always ask for them to kind of like look inside to make decisions. Have you always been, since you can recall, the kind of person that is less maybe like tactical and pragmatic with decisions part of me, and more just going with what feels right? Or is it a mixture of you? It's like a recipe. You've got a bit of kind of pragmatism involved, but also a bit of like whatever you feel in your gut you're going to do.
I would say I have a habit of kind of jumping from thing to thing and not committing a lot of, like, really settling down and committing to one job or like one kitchen job for like X amount of years or anything. But at the time in Japan, I just felt like I wasn't happy, and I was scrolling through Instagram, and that's when Campagnolo was hiring, and I just sent out an email. They called me right away, and then we talked, and then it seemed like a good fit, and it just kind of fell into place. And that's kind of how my travels and work experience has always gone. Like, sometimes I wish I could have stayed longer, because there's always stuff to improve and learn.
For sure.
You know, I was only at camp or in Vancouver for 7 months, and obviously I wanted to stay for the full year, but I got to move on to the next thing because it's kind of feels right. Starting to feel a little comfortable, and that's when at least I know that I have to push myself and make myself uncomfortable again.
I like that, man. That's, again, totally my shtick as well. When things are kind of too easy and too warm and too comfortable, it's like you got to hop into that cold shower and mix it up a little bit. So things are changing for you literally in a matter of days. By the time this podcast comes out, which will be a couple weeks from now, you'll actually be back in California, transitioning from California to go back to Japan.
Yes.
So going back to Japan to do what?
So I got into a culinary school in Tokyo. It's a 2-year program. I'm going to be learning the foundations of like kaiseki, which is like traditional Japanese cuisine, and sushi as well. I felt like in my time in Japan, they are so focused on the smallest details, like compared to my time in North America. And I just felt like if I want to gain a solid foundation and technique and like food philosophy, I just think Japan is the best place for that. And so I decided to go back to Japan. Funny enough.
Which is kind of counterintuitive, because it sounds like you left there with a bit of a, pardon the pun, but like bitter taste in your mouth. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be. But this program sounds like and seems to be like the next step in your food journey, if I can call it that, where you're going to really dive deeper into. And I love what you said, food philosophy. And what is your vision with that? And we've talked about this obviously off the mic, but what is your vision after these 2 years are done? Magic wand scenario. What does the hospitality world see Koji doing?
I haven't really nailed down like a number one scenario, but I'm really going to Japan to, like I said, nail down my technique. And just as importantly, I want to get really experience living in Japan and like full 2 years and getting my Japanese level up to par, so I can like become a translator level Japanese and really just being immersed,
Do your parents speak Japanese to you guys at home?
Yeah, to me, not to I don't know, to my siblings as well, but my sisters speak English back to them, so it's a weird mix of Japanese and English.
Remind me again where you are in the mix. Are you the oldest?
I am the oldest.
Oh, right. And is this life that you're leading, which is, for lack of a better term, like this transient lifestyle where you're going from country to country and city to city, is this something that you feel, again, is kind of just in the marrow of your bones, or does your family promote stuff like this? Where did this all come from? Like, it's not often that people your age are, taking the opportunity, obviously, because of your Japanese background. I'm assuming it's a little bit easier for you to call Japan home than, say, me. But it's so easy, like you said, it's so easy just to like stay in the Bay Area and just cook and learn and do that thing. So this desire to travel around and visit new places, has this been something that you feel like your family has instilled in you, or has it just always been within you as a person individually?
No, I don't think it was always within me. I was quite like shy and like didn't really want to branch out while I was pretty much through high school. But I think it is within my parents because my dad,
Mm-hmm.
he traveled to Europe for a year and then decided, I don't know, I mean, for a girl, but
Yeah.
straight up just moved to America. So I think I got my travel bug from him in a way.
Yeah.
And my dad currently works or has been working at like a study exchange nonprofit for the past 20 years. So he's kind of like talked about that during dinner, like, oh yeah, like we're working on this project right now, so and so. And it's always kind of been in the back of my mind. And then my first, I guess, real exchange experience was my summer after sophomore year. And my parents kind of pushed me into it because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, it's scary, blah, blah, blah. It was only 10 days, but it was to Japan.
Yeah.
And I was staying with the host family, like a sister city exchange.
Yeah.
And that really opened my eyes. Like, whoa, like,
You can do this.
I can do this.
Yeah.
There's just like a whole world to see. And yeah, it just really opened my eyes. And
What has been some of the biggest takeaways that you've experienced in your time here in Vancouver? Again, we have a lot of listeners from all over the world that have yet to be here. And I know there's been some great moments for you in the city. There's also been some not so awesome moments for you in the city, but they all make up what has been your experience.
yeah.
So if you could, as eloquently as you always do, how would you sum up your time here? What are you taking away when you look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now at these 7 months? What is your biggest takeaway from your time in Vancouver and your time calling Canada home, pardon me?
I would say, man, that's hard, but I really felt like I've always had trouble kind of expressing myself and just kind of going out of my way to make connections and friends. And I felt like in Vancouver it kind of came naturally and like kind of gained more confidence. I mean, I'm very lucky to live in Vancouver. It's so international and everyone's kind of in the same boat. But and then just meeting up with you and everything, and I don't know, I just felt like I was always shaky on kind of going into cooking so late and kind of sticking with hospitality as a career. But coming here kind of solidified like, oh, I made the right choice, and like there's people that are serious about it and are passionate about it and want to make great food and great experiences for people. So I think I'll look back in the future in my time in Vancouver being like it was a time of like, I don't know what the word is, but like
reassuring or defining or reaffirming that like this is what you want to do.
yeah.
It kind of was like, it was like that documentary that you watch that like finally convinces you to become a vegan. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing.
I don't know about that, but
Do you know what I mean though? It's like
Yeah.
that book you read and you're like, oh, okay, then I'm definitely going to go travel to Spain because it's this book. You know what I mean? So there was something that happened for you in Vancouver that solidified, like you said, that this is the industry that you want to occupy. And that could change. Who knows, 15, 20 years from now, that could change. But it's cool that you can say that coming here has given you that. And I'll just say that as much as you feel like maybe you have trouble or have had troubles like expressing yourself or putting yourself out there, the fact that you and I are now friends would not have happened if you didn't have the courage or took the time to send me a message on Instagram.
true.
Right. And I think that's something that I would love for you to take and apply to every aspect of your life, and our listeners as well. Is like you don't know until you try. And the worst thing that can happen is nothing happens.
Yeah.
So nothing actually changes. Do you know what I mean? So it's not bad or good. It's just, it didn't happen. But in this case, we were able to link up and then do some quote unquote work together and hang out and share some meals and meet other people,
Totally.
which has been super, super fun.
So fun.
Let's talk about quickly your your takeaways from your time at camp. You came here kind of with a vision, I'm assuming, of what it would be like, similar to your time in Japan as well. You went there with a vision, kind of an expectation, if you will. And coming here, I would assume you had the same thing. So without sharing all the details, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back of house that probably shouldn't be mentioned on air.
What are you talking about?
In every restaurant. But what is specific to your time at camp? What was your biggest takeaway, and how did it stack up to your expectations? Was there ever a part of you that felt like, oh, you should never meet your idols? Meaning, like, Robert RB was someone that I'm assuming like you had on your roster, right?
Yeah.
And held kind of high. Is it one of those scenarios where like, oh, I wish I didn't meet him because of this? Or is it still like, no, he's still someone I really respect and appreciate?
No, I mean, I still really respect and appreciate, you know, but one of the biggest things was I came to work at camp to be exposed to like charcuterie and butchery and like whole animal butchery essentially, because so many restaurants don't do that. And as soon as I arrived,
they switched everything.
Yeah, I mean, I understand business is business and they have to switch directions.
Adapt.
And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I still got to experience it, but I was hoping and had the expectation of having that as my main learning,
right,
technical learning for my time here. But that's another thing I learned here is like just not to have expectations. Like just the expectation of like you'll learn something and it's how you adapt, and it's pretty much what you make of the situation.
Yeah, totally. There's always something you can pull out of it. You could sit there and feel sorry for yourself, the fact that you aren't doing what you maybe had envisioned you'd be doing. But I know that you have done work now that you probably wouldn't have also had the opportunity to do, like working in that role that you had where you're like running your own station, right? Which is super rare for someone who's coming in with not as much of a pedigree and getting that opportunity.
Yeah.
And flourishing.
Definitely.
What was, so with what you did experience there, what is your biggest takeaway from that experience, specifically to camp and to your station, what you were doing? What is one thing you're like, man, I'll never forget this, or I'll always remember that?
Man, I just think pretty much just running your own station by itself.
Which means what to you? Like help the people that don't run stations, don't work in kitchens. What does it look like through Koji's lens when you run a station? What does that look like?
Man, it's crazy. No, it's not that crazy, but it's just in Japan, I was an assistant apprentice. I didn't have like anything like real responsibility. Right. I did, but I wasn't responsible for a station. So it's like becoming your own boss, essentially, and making sure to have everything prepped and organized. And, you know, sometimes ingredients don't come in or you don't know the forecast, but you kind of have to guess and adapt. And it's just, you know, sometimes you mess up, but then, you know, you learn from that and keep going. And I don't know, it's just like a life experience, man.
Do you feel like, though, as much as it wasn't maybe what you thought it was going to be when you came here, the fact that you did get to like run your own station and see the kitchen through that lens is something that's invaluable?
Definitely. I didn't really have confidence as a cook when I first started at camp, because I was like, oh, I only really helped
someone else cook.
Someone else cook, or like my sous chef at my last restaurant would like give me a few things I can prep here and there, but nothing like you're in charge of this.
Right.
So that was a huge, I guess, confidence booster.
Yeah,
to be able to take over a station and do it well and work within a team to just make great food for the people, you know?
Yeah, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is making people's experience of that space as best as we possibly can. It's all about how you make someone feel, right? Let's talk about food in this city. Again, those that haven't been here or those that have it on their list of places to visit. I know that you've dined out at a few establishments since you've been here, both ones that have been highly regarded, and others that probably people haven't yet to even hear of. So in your time that you've been here, I don't know why it's doing that. In your time that you've been here, what has been like your highlights of like places that you feel, again, leave a mark on you mentally? You're like, man, this spot was amazing. Or spots that you feel like our listeners have to go check out because of A, B, or C?
Yeah. I would say Lynn Cafe.
Lynn Cafe.
Lynn Cafe.
Oh man, I still haven't. I gotta go.
Yeah, man. It's in Kits. I forget the street name, but
Right.
it's pretty much like a French Vietnamese bistro, and from the outside, it just looks like a coffee shop. And it's like you're kind of caught off guard because you walk in and it's like full on bistro style, but Vietnamese. It's crazy. They have a chalkboard menu on the wall and has like crazy stuff like truffle stuffed roast turkey and
Right.
like, crazy stuff. And you're like, what is this? You know? But I tried their pho and it was just so, I don't know. You just gotta try it, man.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah. It's just a cafe, but they're taking it so seriously and everything's in check, and you can see the kitchen. It's just spotless. Like every time I go.
Did you ever meet the owner or the chef?
No, I never met the owner or the chef, but I've been to Lynn like 5 or 6 times, and every time it's been superb. So.
I'm getting hungry just listening to you talk about it. I forgot about the truffle stuffed turkey.
I mean, I never tried it. But
no, but it's just it sounds.
They got
the fact that they're doing that and they're doing pho. It's interesting you say that because I think there's, not to interrupt your whole spiel on Vancouver here, but it's interesting that for me there's concepts that exist that can do that, meaning they can have this varied menu and it works. There's other concepts that try and do burgers and pasta and pizza and chicken wings and lasagna, and it's just like it does not work. So there's something obviously at Lynn Cafe where it just works.
It just works. I don't know.
They just execute.
They kill it every time.
Shout out Lynn Cafe. We'll put them in the show notes.
What's that?
We'll put them in the show notes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Where else stands out?
Where else, man?
Or dishes.
Dishes. Gotta think about that for a second.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pause.
Mainam.
We went to Mainam.
Oh, Mainam was great.
Yeah.
Just super simple, clean flavors and well executed. Yeah, I would definitely recommend Mainam.
Yeah, I'd go back again for sure.
Actually, pretty much all of Chef Angus's restaurants I've been to have been great. Like I went to what was it called? Fat Mao.
Yeah.
In Chinatown. Great cow soy. Just super clean, simple.
What is cow soy?
Cow soy is like I think it's northern Thailand noodles, but it's pretty much like flat noodles with like a coconut curry base.
Oh,
I'm
damn,
not
that
quite
sounds delicious.
sure like the technical terms, but it's just very rich and delicious and sweet, spicy, creamy.
That sounds so freaking
Hits all the notes,
I should learn never to do this podcast on an empty stomach because I actually just get super hungry when we start talking
Yeah,
about
as a
food.
matter of fact, I haven't eaten really, so I'm in the same boat, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn. Are you doing like intermittent fasting, trying to get shredded up for the winter or what?
No, I mean, I just had a couple coffees in the
Right.
area, and then nothing really appealed to me. So like, I'll save my room for something after.
So you're heading back to the Bay Area. We'll be staying back with the folks before you head off to Japan. What are you most looking forward to besides the family, besides friends, when you go back to the Bay Area? What are you most looking forward to in regards to, say, hospitality and food? Is there anything that you're going to have as soon as you get back? I'm always interested when people go back home, what they get right away.
Honestly, I'm just looking forward to my mom's cooking, man.
Yeah?
Like, it sounds cliche, and I sound biased, but my mom literally is the best.
And what would be if we were to have 12 lucky guests of this, 12 lucky listeners of this show be guests at your house and your mom was cooking, what would she make?
That's the thing. You never know.
But no, like what is it? What is the banger that you're like, oh, this would just like melt everyone's face?
Man, her gyoza game, the pot sticker game is fire. I don't know. She'll just take whatever from the fridge and whip something up.
So is that what you're looking forward to? Like literally the day you get back? Do you know what time you arrive?
I think it's like I land at SFO around 7, so probably like 9. I'll get home.
PM or AM?
PM.
Okay, so like a late night, like a late evening dinner.
I mean, our family eats quite late.
Okay.
So it's probably like right around dinner time for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you had a magic wand, and if you could pick what's on that plate when you sit down that mom is cooking, it is pot stickers.
Yeah, gyoza.
Yeah.
Maybe mabo tofu.
Which is what?
It's like ground pork, tofu. I don't know what the words are in English, but it's pretty much like Chinese miso.
How do you say it?
Donbanjiang, tobajang, like 2.
Okay.
And scallions, ginger, garlic.
Spicy or no?
Japanese style isn't that spicy. There's like a little kick, but Japanese don't use the Szechuan peppercorn because it numbs the mouth, and I guess
they don't mess with that.
They don't mess with that, so
they want to keep it clean.
They want to keep it not spicy, I guess.
When you and I first met and we started kind of hopping around town to different spots, we tried bread at a couple places. I know bread's near and dear to your heart because of one, where you're from. I feel like the Bay Area is where sourdough kind of really started.
Yeah.
But if you're going back and you're going out for sourdough, where are you going in the Bay Area and why that spot?
First off, shout out Portside Bakery.
Shout out Portside.
Yeah, my good friend Sam. It was actually my first back of house gig. I was helping him start up his bakery, pretty much doing the prep, and it was just us two for like the first 4 or 5 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had never really worked. I didn't know anything about bread, but he showed me what a starter is and like had me mix the doughs, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but he obviously trusted me to like run that, and kind of slowly started to appreciate bread and sourdough for that matter.
So you're heading there, obviously.
Heading there, he just got a new oven.
Oh.
Super stoked to see it.
Well done, Sam, man. Investing in that business, bro.
He actually used to live in Vancouver as well.
So, right. We talked about this. Yeah. Crazy.
That would be number 1. I mean, Tartine.
Tartine's
killing it.
Classic.
But yeah, there's so many like micro tartines now. Like,
right.
Kind of copycats. I don't like to say that, but they're copying that concept essentially. So yeah, I would just
you
say
can't go wrong when you're in the Bay Area.
Yeah, pretty much.
Help the listeners and myself. You and I've talked about this a bit, but what I'm always intrigued, people that have literally from scratch built these things. So you obviously watched this process at Portside Bakery with sourdough kind of become a thing. When people are shopping for sourdough and they open up their sourdough, they slice it open, what should it look like? Ideally, what are they looking for? How do they know if it's good or not? How do you define a quality piece of sourdough versus a non-quality piece of sourdough?
Well, I don't know. So bread is just like anything else. It depends on what you like. So what I like is I like a bit of acidity. When you cut into the bread, it should be a nice even crumb, which is like, I don't want to simplify it, but how the holes in the bread are distributed.
Right. So it shouldn't be like a massive one to the left and then tiny ones to the right.
It should be nice and even. So yeah, I like a nice hard crust, and then like they say custardy, but like a softer inside.
Yeah.
And toast that, it's magic. But like some people can't handle the acidity, you know, so they might want a more milder one, which is understandable. And some people say the crust is too hard, it hurts their mouth. So they want like a softer bake, which is all good.
Yeah. But to each their own.
To each their own.
Over taste, there shall be no discussion. Changing speed a bit, let's talk about the future of hospitality and where you see it going. I'm always intrigued to ask my guests kind of their take on where hospitality is right now globally. Mm-hmm. And obviously you can speak to that more than a lot of people because you've been in different countries and you've seen different food styles and concepts that work and industries that are thriving and ones that are maybe not so much. Where do you think we're going globally with food? What trends are you seeing? What trends do you think are going to stick? Which ones do you think are, going to flop? Where is food and hospitality going in the next 5-10 years?
I just, I don't want to sound negative, but I feel like it's going to be just fast casual and kind of sad. Like those are great, but I don't know, just working in Vancouver really opened my eyes. It's just like at least my generation, of course there's passionate cooks everywhere, but it's hard to find passionate cooks, and it is long hours and the pay is not great. So it's harder and harder to, you know, have a restaurant that wants to do a more complicated menu or technical menu. So a lot of businesses are kind of simplifying, scaling down, which is great. But I just see a trend, at least in the West, where it's all going to be kind of like a fast casual concept, because that's all the labor market can really provide, I guess.
Right.
So that kind of makes me sad. But
yeah, no, something I've talked about, and we've talked about before as well, again, off the mic, and I talk about all the time, is like, where are we headed with our food? Is it going to be just that? Is it going to be, at least North America, a scenario where it's all QSR models, where you place your order, you grab a number, and you sit down, and the food's served to you, and that's it? Which, again, then for me, I always am challenged by, then what does hospitality actually look like? And for me, hospitality is always trying to replicate what it would be like if you were a guest in someone's home, and how would you treat that person and make them feel, and all those things. And for me, it's not just grab a number, sit down, and then you're on your own. So I hope that we're wrong, and I hope that there is, even if it does go down that path, which it very well may, it'd be awesome if there are a few mainstays that just kind of keep up that traditional style of what dining out is. Doesn't have to be white tablecloth, but something where you can go and truly be looked after. And we've talked about that again. Like I'm not so worried about the food being 5 stars, but I want to be taken care of.
I think it's hard because I just feel like our generation, or my generation especially, they don't really cook that much in general at home, and they don't really host guests, like feeding people, or just just that concept of hospitality, I feel like.
Do you feel like it's this is not to get too meta here, but do you think there's a lot of the lack of that is due to the mindset of lack? Do you feel like people aren't sharing now because there's this fear of not having?
I think there's a part of that, like, you know, we're all struggling with funds.
Right.
So, but I don't know. I just feel like in Western culture, at least in America, like, there isn't as much importance put on food, or kind of nurturing
and nourishing people, yeah,
as there is in Asia, like my Japanese
or
background.
a lot of places in Europe as well.
You know.
Yeah. That's something I remember when I lived in London for 2 years, was the consistency in which people would get together. And it wouldn't be every night of the week, obviously, but almost every Sunday, whether it was the whole family would go down to the pub, or families would get together at someone's home and they would do a roast every Sunday. And I think that's such an amazing thing to do. And we were lucky to share a Christmas dinner this year together, which I thought was so cool, that we could all sit around a table, a bunch of people that didn't really know each other before that.
Yeah.
And then it's amazing what happens when you share food, and how you can really,
especially good food.
Yeah.
You know?
Ideally good food. Ideally good food. But you know what? Anything really, from a frozen pizza to like nachos. I think you just put it on the table and watch how people then can interact and learn more about each other. And I think the cool thing as well, looking at your background and being able to pull from my background as well, is we can tell so many stories with food about our background and our heritage, and then create even deeper bonds with people. I think that's something that I've never executed, and I'd love to do, is kind of this, pick a small group of friends that are similar to you and I in their, I guess, their desire or wanting to, you know, cook good food and share good food. Kind of pick a small group and do this kind of home and home, where you come to my house and I cook for you strictly from my heritage. So for me, it'd be Eastern European, so Ukrainian and French. So the menu would have to be completely from that space.
Yeah.
And then for you, it would be Japan. And you could obviously throw it. You could, I guess you could say, like the Bay Area as well.
Yeah.
But that would be for me such an interesting way, again, to kind of tell a story and look at and introduce people to different items like that ground pork tofu dish that you mentioned. Never tried it, never even heard of it.
Well, that's that dish is Chinese, but then reinterpreted. So
right,
that's cool.
What would be? Well, then even is pot stickers Chinese?
Yeah, but like this is
why is your mom steal? Why is your mom and
but gyoza is like Japanese style.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a different style altogether.
Got you.
I guess if like where it originated from, then I would say probably China.
Right, but like your mom's version of it is the Japanese interpretation of that dish. Which again, that even that in itself, I feel is so cool because that is an education through food.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like looking at what Canada or Quebec has done with French fries and putting gravy and cheese curds on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's just different, but it's so unique to that region.
Right?
Yeah. Have you had poutine?
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Had it a couple times, man.
Here or?
What you mean? Yeah, only here. Man.
Okay. Oh, like in Vancouver or somewhere else?
Oh, just Vancouver, man.
Have you traveled? I forget. Have you traveled anywhere else in Canada?
No.
This is it.
This is it.
Oh, okay.
I've ventured to Squamish, but that's about it.
No, we went to Surrey.
Oh, that's true. And Abbotsford.
We went to Abbotsford, for the farm,
Yeah,
so we did some cool stuff, man.
Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, Koji helped a lot with one of our, was it our fifth? I think it was our fifth dinner. So we did the half dozen dinner series, and Koji was kind enough to volunteer his time and come out and actually wash dishes for us when we executed a dinner at Cafe Medina here in town. So that was super, super cool that you did that. And you did it so well. And that's something I feel like, again, I don't know if it's just how you were brought up or it's just who you are as a person, but I feel like when you do things, you do them in a very, you put all the effort into it. Mm-hmm. And you're very respectful. Like I can't imagine you ever showing up late for something. I feel like you are kind of the ideal candidate for anyone running a restaurant. Do you feel that way about yourself, or are you like you don't want to take that compliment?
No, I'll take it.
Yeah, like just the way you approach things. No, I can imagine that. I never did see you working at camp, but I can imagine like your station was always like very well thought out and well prepared and ready to go. And again, is that something that comes naturally to you? Did you have to work on that as far as like a discipline?
No, I had to work on that. I started at my house. I would try to cook in my house, and my mom would be like, "What are you doing, man? Like, you gotta do this first because this and this, and you have to have it organized and clean. Like,
clean
if
as
you
you
can't
go.
even do that, you shouldn't even work in a kitchen." Like, she's the scariest chef I worked under, man.
What's your mom's name again?
Atsuko.
Yeah. Shout out
Atsuko, man. Yeah. So it started there, and just like my dad also. Both my parents are like, you can do whatever you want. Like, we're not going to really pressure you into doing this or that. But do what you like and do it well. And if you're not going to do it well, or if you're not going to do something you like, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
So that's been, like, ingrained in me since I was young. And then my first kitchen job in Japan, I was washing dishes for, like, 4 months, 5 months. And they won't let me touch anything until.
Right.
So that's where it was ingrained in me. It's like, if you can't clean, you can't cook.
Exactly.
So to me, it's just like if you're cooking, it's cleaning essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've always not always, but in the past 2 years, it's really been ingrained in me.
Were you ever like a punk kid?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
No, you weren't like getting chased by the cops and stuff.
No, I was never a huge troublemaker or anything.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you guys don't already understand, like Koji is like he's the kind of person that you want your daughter to date.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly, dude. That's good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Koji, you know that on this show we try to keep it original and we try to keep it very conversational and relax, which I think we've done. But there are 2 questions that we have to cover off, and I ask every single guest. I asked Robert Belgium, and now I get to ask you. So 2 questions are, number 1, the half a dozen have-tos. So 1 to 6 items that you've experienced in your life that you feel like others have to experience, whether it is a trip you've taken, a book you've read, a meal you've eaten, a sunset you've looked at, a beach you visited, a piece of art that you own. What is 1 to 6 of your Koji Abes have tos?
Okay.
I had to emphasize the Abe because I've literally been calling you Koji Abe to everyone else that I say, like, oh, Koji Abe. They're like, do you mean Koji Abe?
No, it's all good. I forgive you, man.
Thank you.
I would say number 1 is just live in a different country if you have the opportunity.
Yes.
Even if it's just a month or like extended period of time, because you just learn so much in that time, and you get to see how different people think and live and eat and converse and just live life.
Yeah.
And then more importantly, you'll kind of appreciate what you have back home and how you were brought up.
Big time.
And I think we need that more than ever now in these times, right?
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, number 1, go live in another country.
Love it.
If you can.
Yeah.
Number 2, I don't know, man.
Are you bailing on just one? One's okay.
One, I don't know, man.
No?
Give me a second, man.
Okay, take your time.
Have tos. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just do that one, man.
Okay, because I think
a lot of things come with it.
Yeah, within that, there's so many things that come out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that was really quick. The last one I have for you is the half a dozen haven't yet things you've yet to do. Obviously, we talked about Japan. We talked about the 2-year course that obviously is in the works. That's coming, so you will be doing that. But what other things do you have on your haven't yet list?
Haven't yet. I haven't been to South America or Africa yet.
Okay.
So for me, I'd like to travel there, even just for a vacation at the very least. But
what about it?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I just feel like so much I just haven't seen, and
right.
I love the cuisine of like Peruvian cuisine. I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
For example, as far as Africa, there's so much history and like.
Oh man, so much has come from there, right?
So much has come from
flavors,
there, and yet,
spices.
I don't
technique.
really know much about it, but like a lot of people use the flavors and spices every day, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of dive there and see what it's like, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like they're really now being put on the map. It was South Africa, I think, just had the Restaurant of the Year award.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't looked, but
it was
awesome.
It was the gosh, the name escapes me, but it was the awards that were in France this year in Paris. This place was voted and it's like one of those like 18 seats, and it's a cool concept in that everyone does everything in the restaurant, all the employees.
Oh, cool.
So there's no back of house, front of house designation.
So everyone's everyone.
Yeah, like everyone is everyone. There's none of that like traditional, like we were talking the other day about like that kind of military-esque hierarchy. There still is, I think, in regards to kind of who leads the ship, but after that, it's kind of everyone is just all pulling the same way, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Well, man, I want to say thank you so much. Actually, I didn't ask you if you had more. Sorry.
My last one.
Sorry.
Have-nots.
Yeah. Haven't yet is travel with my boy Brad. Yeah, where are we going?
I
would do Africa.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Like,
let's do it.
Let's do it in the future, man.
I'm not busy.
All right. I know, man. You're so free.
I would, you know what? I would absolutely love to travel to Africa. It's definitely on my list. It's definitely my top 10 places that I want to visit, and it would be so cool to travel with you. We would for sure eat way too much food.
What are you talking about, man?
But I'm all about that. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, for making time for me and for the listeners. And it's so cool that literally a DM that I got, I can tell you like not the day, but I can tell you the setup. I walked out to my vehicle that was parked out front of my condo on this day, and I sat in the driver's seat, and I had opened up Instagram and looked at it, and I had a direct message I mean, who am I kidding? I had thousands of direct messages.
Okay.
I had one direct message from Koji, and it was like a very simple message. And he asked if we could meet up and potentially, for lack of a better term, work together. And we met up. We had a tea, I think, at Matchstick up on 33rd.
Riley Park.
Yeah, Riley Park,
Yeah.
Matchstick. Shout out Matchstick. And from there, we just ended up spending more time together. And I feel so lucky that I get to call you a friend now. And it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. And I look forward to continuing our friendship and our relationship through the years. And I also cannot wait to see what you do with the experience that you've gathered here in Vancouver, but more importantly, the experience you're going to get when you go to Japan with this kind of classical schooling and education. I think it's only going to, again, sharpen your food philosophy and make it clearer of what the future holds for you when it comes to food and hospitality. So shout out to you. Shout out for making time for this podcast. Shout out to you guys for tuning in as you do week after week. Before I let you go, Koji, officially, any parting words for the listeners?
Shout out Brad. Thank you for everything. Shout out Vancouver. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
And I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, he will be back. Don't worry, folks. He will be back. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. You know what to do until next time, guys. Be good and do good. That's it, dude. We did it. Easy, right?
Easy money.
Bro, your hands are freezing.